Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Outlaw Nation. I'm the Outlaw John Rocha. How are you? Where the hell is my hat? Where did I put that damn thing? I know it's around here somewhere. Oh, that's right. There it is. That's right. I'm the Outlaw John Rocha. Well, what do you do? What do you say? What do you say, everybody? How's it going? Oh, is it covering me up too much? Maybe it's covering me up too much. I don't know. Maybe I should not do that one. Maybe I shouldn't do the hat at all. Maybe I should just kind of do it its own way. What do you think? Hey, how's it going, everybody? Good to see everybody. How's everybody hearing? Is the audio good? I know I fixed it a little bit this morning, so just want to make sure the audio is doing even better now with everybody. How are you hearing? Can you hear me? Are we good to go? Somebody let me know if the audio is working well so we can go with this. What's up, Oscar Romo, Jay Scott for real, PC Bingo, Chris Scorpio, Chris Hall, what's going down there? Jesus Christ, how are you? Maria Hammond, how are you? Maria, good to see you again. Jake, thanks so much for moderating. It says, not too early, get your Streamlabs questions in. That's for damn sure. Please send them in. Let's see. Brendan Young said it was an awesome live event in Atlanta. Can't wait for the free-for-all. How's it going? Says Anthony Williams. Maria Zambano's in here too. Brandon Young. It's going great. First time watching Outlaw Nation and live. Excited for this stream since SEN couldn't spoil today. I want those spoilers so bad, says Randall Tan. Let's see. Chris Hall says, this Jake guy. Oh, my gosh. Eric Stevenson. Thank you, Eric Stevenson. The audio was great. Good. Darren Batten is in here. Facetious Christ. Manny Gonzalez, Bradley Burnett, Anthony Villanueva says the audio is good. Dan Layson. Greetings. Camshaft. Hey, Rocha Heads. I'm looking forward to the juicy details from set. I like Rocha Heads. Rocha Heads is good. I dig that. Well, if you were in this live stream here at 6 o'clock, live on the Outlaw Nation channel, 6 p.m. PT, I thoroughly appreciate it. Picked up so many subscribers in the last few hours here. Cody Sherfield, Joshua Howe, Brendan Clayton, Goodfella, Michael Kent, Mega Grecio, Vincent Tam, Don Ellington, Brandon Johnson, and Patrick Solar. So thanks so much for all of you coming aboard the Outlaw Nation train. Really appreciate it all. Please, as Jake is putting up there, you got the Streamlabs. And look at this wonderful new overlay from Jake Iacovetta there. Look at that. I have to make some adjustments so you could see my Twitter handle there. And that's also the Instagram handle, at The Rocha Says. You can see the Patreon there for me, www.patreon.com/John Rocha. And also the Streamlabs. If you wanted to donate, John Rocha Says right there, streamlabs.com/John Rocha Says. So please, go and donate to all that. Or go and send in your questions, send in your Superchats, send in your Streamlabs and questions, and I'll answer everything. You know, we're here for the next hour and a half, having a good time talking about what happened in Atlanta and everything that went down in that city when it came to the Schmoedown. So let's see. Well, I might as well just start from the beginning. Want to thank everybody who's in here. Got 90 people in here. Please slide in and give me a like. That would be great. Got 54 likes so far. Would love to get up to 100 before we move into the second hour here. It would be great. But let's jump into this thing. It is happening live with you all. So thanks so much for joining me. I just finished watching a little bit of Roxy's live stream as well. It looked like a good thing. Roxy was, tackled some strong issues and tackled some tough issues. So I got nothing but respect for the Rocks. I will be on later on Chill to Action at 8:15, 8:30, somewhere around there. I'll be on there, and then we'll be talking for the rest of the night. I wanted to do this stream today because I wanted to have the fresh ideas of Atlanta still in my head. So maybe those of you who want to go back and watch this after I'm done who couldn't watch it live, you'll enjoy watching it in retrospect. All right. Let's talk about what happened in Atlanta. What a fun time it was. There was all that drama before we went to Atlanta about who's going to manage who's going to do what, who's going to be involved with who's going to be the person that they're going to lean on or go with, or who's going to be the person who's going to be managing. Is Tom going to be managing? Am I going to be managing? Is no one going to be managing? So much was happening with all of that. In the end, we figured it out. But, can't deny there was a little bit of tension with the Finstock Exchange, a little bit of tension when we got there. Certainly Ben Bateman wanting to defend that belt, and I got nothing but respect for Ben. He certainly earned his position in this league, a revered player, a technically brilliant player, a lot of knowledge in that kid's head now. There were times where he had fallen short and he wasn't sure. The story is always the same with so many players. They want to achieve success. They want to get there, and they know they can, but they take these bumps along the way, these hits along the way, and they wonder if they're going to get there. Certainly, Rachel Cushing had her concerns. Ben Bateman was kind of worried at times whether he was going to be able to figure this game out once and for all and get to the mountaintop, and he certainly did on that incredible run last year to win the belt for himself and for the Horsemen, and then eventually, of course, for the Finstock Exchange. So all of that, great stuff for Ben Bateman. But certainly Ben had his tactics and his gamesmanship that he was employing before this match with Dan Murrell. Now, before I go any further, I just want to let you know, if you've clicked on this and you haven't, what can I say this? You haven't seen the matches. I'm going to spoil the matches for you. Just letting you know, I'm going to spoil the matches for you. So if you have not seen the Emily Rose Jacobson, Alex Damon match, or if you've not seen Dan Murrell versus Ben Bateman, you're going to have it spoiled for you here in this live stream. So please do not at me and say, Rocha spoiled it. I already spoiled it for a couple of people on my social media, which I felt terrible about. But so I don't want to spoil it for anybody else. So if you haven't seen the matches, please, thank you for the click. Thank you for the like. But please go watch the matches, then come back and watch this. So anyway, all right. So flew into Atlanta on Thursday night? Oh, no, I'm sorry, on Friday daytime. Left with Christian. We left on the same flight. He was a couple of rows back. What I do on flights usually is I put on my Bose noise-canceling headphones and I just chill out. And the whole time while I was on the flight, to be honest with you, I was wondering to myself what I was going to do. Because if you remember, this weekend was not only just the Schmoedown live event, I also had to go and do stand-up, which Mark Ellis was very gracious to invite me to do as one of the people that he had set up there at the One Up Comedy Club in Atlanta. Had Robert Parker in there doing his stand-up as well. There was another young lady there from Atlanta, a local comedian. She came on as well. So Mark Ellis was the main event of the night, but he was gracious to let me have a set. He's been very encouraging for me as I do this stand-up and get more and more comfortable on that stage, telling jokes, understanding the craft of being a stand-up, understanding the craft of telling a joke, understanding the craft of calling things back and all of that nature. Mark has been incredible for me in that way. So much love to him for giving me the shot at doing things. So I'm looking forward to doing more and more of the stand-up. It'll be a lot of fun. So anyway, so the whole time on the plane ride, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do for stand-up? Because I don't have any clue about what I'm going to do for stand-up. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to make jokes about. I don't know. And flying in or just listening to my music, watching. Sometimes I watch, if you catch me on a flight, you'll catch me watching music videos. I'm a massive fan of music videos. I just have a thing about them for whatever reason. And on planes, they kind of calm me down watching music videos because each one of those 3 to 5 minute music videos is a separate story that takes me out of being on a plane or any kind of stress of being on a plane or, the plane has turbulence or whatever. For me, music videos keep me chill, keep me calm. And I watch a lot of those when I'm on a flight. So if you'll catch me on a flight, you will look over on my iPad or my computer, and I might be watching music videos to kind of calm my nerves a little bit from being on a plane. All right, so to prepare ourselves, and let me go a little bit back, to prepare ourselves for taking on Ben Bateman, Dan Murrell and I had to do a lot of work, like boning up on his general stuff, boning up on the specific stuff. You remember at the beginning of the season, they released a list of all those new topics. So new topics means new possibilities for those slices to appear on a wheel, which could be very dangerous for anybody who hasn't studied those topics or built a study sheet for those topics. So Dan and I had a number of conversations about how do you approach Ben Bateman. Ben Bateman, who's had such a technically brilliant approach to the game, how do you fight a player who is that just driven to succeed and is that intelligent and is essentially Sherlocked the game with his mind palace and figured out what he needed to do? Well, we went back and kind of looked at some things and kind of found a couple of what we thought might be weaknesses in Ben's game. Maybe have him do a guessing game of what Dan was going to put on the wheel, things of that nature. And then we submitted our slices. And of course, we weren't allowed to see what was going to be on the wheel until just before the start of the game. So that was a part of the whole strategy. It was like, what are we going to put on the wheel? And what do we think Ben is going to put on the wheel to counter Dan? Now, full disclosure, we had a feeling that Tyler Perry was going to find its way onto the wheel because we knew that Tyler Perry out of Atlanta, pretty famous guy. So we thought it was going to end up on the wheel one way or another. So a lot of us were not, Dan and Mara and I have to include Mara in this because Mara was always also helping Dan, of course. We had assumed Tyler Perry would be on the wheel. So we did a little bit of studying for Tyler Perry, not a lot of studying, at that time. And then eventually, when it came up in the match, that was a critical moment of the match, and we'll get to it in a little bit. We did what we did because of the level of studying that we thought we had done for the match. So anyway, flying in. So we'd done all the preparations. We'd figured it all out. I'm managing him. I knew that with Dan Murrell, I don't have to do a lot of managing, right? I don't have to be there and calm him down and walk him through things. Not at all. What I have to do is kind of be there as a sounding board for Dan Murrell, as a counselor, if you will. So I would say I was more of a counselor during this match than I was a manager during this match, because a manager is going to talk strategy, going to talk all this kind of. So we did all of that before I ever stepped out on the stage. So there was already the strategy conversations that needed to be had before we ever got on the stage, and that was really a factor in all of this. So anyway, like I said. On the plane, I'm just thinking to myself, well, what am I going to, talk about for the stand-up? And I'll get to the matches in a second. And I land in the plane. The plane is an hour late. We were delayed an hour leaving LAX to come to ATL. 3.5 hour flight. Really incredibly getting the crosswinds or the headwinds or whatever it is. We got caught into that. 3.5 hour flight was fantastic. Got in, no problem. I get the text from Mark Ellis, and he says, hey, man, when can you make it to the stand-up? So the stand-up show started at 7. I landed at 6:45, and it was a 40-minute ride to the stand-up comic. So let me say that again. I flew into Atlanta, got off the plane, immediately onto an Uber, and then into a 40-minute ride to the comedy club. And when I got to the comedy club, Robert Parker had just finished his set. The MC was giving me an introduction because I had texted Ellis that I was close. And I come out of the Uber, 2 bags in hand, walk in, put down my bags. The guy finishes his introduction. I walk right onto the stage and I do my set. Now, I don't know if it was an 8-minute set or 5-minute set. To be honest with you, the blood was pumping, the adrenaline was pumping. I don't know how long the set was. I know that I looked for the guy who was lighting me to let me know, it's time to wrap it up. Other than that, I just walked out there and did my thing. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what I was going to make jokes about. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I didn't know what I was going to make fun of. Didn't know what was going to go into my head. So on the drive over, as I was speaking to the very nice and sweet Uber driver that I met, she's a makeup artist there in Atlanta for a lot of films. She was a very, very kind woman. Her daughter lives out here in Los Angeles. She was very sweet. While I was on the ride with her, the whole time I was thinking to myself, should I end the conversation with this lovely lady who I'm enjoying talking with, or so I can focus on writing something for the show, because I had no material for the show, zero. I looked through my old material on the plane, looked through my old material in the Uber ride, and I just didn't like anything that I'd come up with. I didn't like a damn thing that I'd come up with, and so I sat there, and then I just kind of thought to myself, oh, what's a good funny thing to talk about recently that I feel like strong about, and I was thinking about Ubers, and I was thinking about rideshare, and I was thinking about Grubhub, and I was thinking about how everything is available to us now, and that we're so lazy now because we're so used to everything being brought to us. We all want to act like kings. Like everything can be brought to you. Your food, your car. You don't even have to drive from place to place. Someone will drive you from place to place. Someone will bring you your food. Someone will take you up to your hotel room. Someone will analyze a movie for you so you don't even have to analyze the movie. They'll do it for you. So I was going in all that, and in my mind I just came up with it. And as I come onto the stage, and I was reading, and honestly I took a look at how do you construct a 5-minute stand-up set on Wikipedia or WikiHow or something like that. And then they spoke about how the first minute should be you talking about the city, saying positive things about the crowd, kind of getting them to feel comfortable and warm up to you, and then hit them with a couple of jokes, and then go into your main stuff, and at the end, thank them for listening to you and wrap the whole thing up where it feels correct. And they mentioned doing a callback. So I was just talking about, how these couches, they have new couches now where you can just literally put you recline in a movie theater couch, that these couches that they have now have USB ports. Also, all that stuff was stuff I was doing on the stand-up. And from the reaction I got from the crowd, it was pretty positive reaction, pretty strong reaction, which I was very blown away by it, to be honest with you, because I was like, what am I going to talk about? Because all my old material was stuff that I had written when I was feeling it in the moment. And, I learned something on this trip as a stand-up is like, and I'm not a stand-up, but as a burgeoning possible stand-up, I learned that for me, what works for me is I have to make it topical. I have to make it fresh. It has to be on my mind. It has to be something that I really do want to talk about. It can't be just, I'm sorry, I'm fixing my pop filter here. It can't just be what I did before. So that's what I did. I walked out there, did something that felt right. It felt topical about what was going on in the world, going on in my world, and it ended up working out. And so for me, I was very lucky in that way. But also, I just feel more and more comfortable being on that stage and talking in front of people. It's where I live. I've done these live events for Schmoedown. I feel comfortable. Did theater for many, many years. I feel comfortable on that stage. Now for me, after that experience and after watching Mark Ellis go up there, my God, that is a master tactician of comedy, Mark Ellis. Watching him construct a set with pretty much all fresh material was incredible, was mind-blowing for me to experience. He did a great bit on He-Man. He did a great bit on all these different animated series that are out. He did so many funny things throughout that particular set that were topical and were about what's happening in the world now. And I was just blown away about how he was able to find the humor in every one of those things and just bring it back and bring it back and bring it back. So for me now, the what I learned from that process is, and he taught me this as we were leaving the club and going to get drinks, he said, the thing that I do is I make notes. I talk into my phone and record ideas I have for stand-up, ideas I have for things like that. So to me, that was really incredible. So from there, I learned a number of things just in the hour that I was there on the stage, off the stage, and then talking with Mark Ellis. And met so many great people there that night afterwards, too. Took some pictures, had some nice conversations, had people be very complimentary about the Outlaw Nation, about the Outlaw Nation show. So many things they were so complimentary about that I just was very moved by it all and very happy to be a part of that overall from them. So to me, that's like the strongest thing that come out of it is that I felt like I did a nice job on stage, and then people really appreciate it. And of course, there was a guy who yawned. Somebody's father, one of the kids who was there, his father yawned. And right like near, I don't know, 3/4 of my way into my set, and I looked over and I looked at him and I was like, oh, am I boring you? Well, why don't I drag my balls across your face and wake your ass up? Don't you yawn at the Outlaw show. Don't you yawn. And of course, that guy came up to me later and apologized and said, I'm so sorry. I was driving 10 hours or 12 hours to be here so that I could be at the live event and I could do the comedy. I apologize, and he was such a great sport about it. And of course, I apologized too. And it was so much fun. And he was like, I can travel with you to other stand-up sets and yawn at the appropriate time so you can make fun of me and get laughs from the crowd. And I thought that's being a good sport about things. So overall, just a great, great experience that night. Then we stayed out drinking. Jake, shout out to Jake Iacobetta, who bought 50 shots. That's right, 50 shots. I drank 3 of the 9.5% stouts. I'm a big fan of stouts that have high percentage. So maybe I should open a P.O. box and have you all, if you want to send me some stouts that are like 15%, 20%, 12% and above, and let me be a connoisseur of those stouts, that would be so much fun. So something to think about. Overall, Kevin Merton said, loved you, Rocha, loved you bringing the fire like always. Mary Millian said, oh, the yawning bit was hysterical. Yes. But yeah, 50 Shot Jake is a great nickname for Jake Iacobetta. He's fantastic. So anyway, just a great Friday night. Hanging out with the guys afterwards and the ladies afterwards, of course, was so much fun too. Abby Friel was there. We had a number of fans who came out with us, and Robert Parker, of course, joined us for drinks. The Action Army was rolling deep and rolling strong there. So there's a lot of people we were hanging out with, just having good conversations. It was a nice way to just kind of detox, and it was great that I had a good set so I could not be brooding in my head about it. I could just relax about it and focus on the match. All right, let me move on to some Streamlabs here real quick, and then we'll jump into stuff that happened on Saturday. All right, the first is from Chris Hall. He donated. He said, when you going to help out the Action guys? I don't know what this is, Chris. Have they asked for my help? What help do they need? I'm always down to help the Action guys. They're great people. I'm down. All right, Chris Scorpio says, Dan Murrell's mic drop in his post-match interview was awesome, saying that he would rather be in a faction with a few communications issues than a faction that doesn't win Loved it. Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second, but absolutely. Slowly but surely, Dan Murrell is becoming the alpha dog of the Finstock Exchange. And I don't mean just with wins. I mean, he's starting to command the mic. He's certainly been great in scenes over the last few months. And now his promos are starting to have a little bit of fire. A little bit of fire. And I am so happy about that. It's like watching, it's like Vince Vaughn. He's all grows up and he's all grows up and he's all grows up. To me, it's so great to watch Dan take to it and now start to feel himself a little bit. And he gets self-conscious when he goes a little far, but Dan makes these strong statements and he's becoming this fiery competitor. And I personally am proud of it, man. And I hope I have a piece of making that happen, because I'm proud of how Dan's willing to defend himself now. He doesn't have to be humble. He can be, people know that he's humble, but he also believes in his talent, believes in his ability in this game. And I love that. And I love to see it come out in these mic drop moments. When he said it, I was like, I don't even know how I could follow that. That's such a great thing to say. Don DeMarco said, "Hey Rocha, what's up, my man? The Invisible Man was really good. What's your favorite horror/thriller to come out over the last couple of years?" That's a great question. Maybe The Invisible Man. Honestly, I'd have to look up. Where's my phone? I'd have to look up the last few horror films that I might have seen and see what the answers. Oh, these pop-up filters, man, they're so damn frustrating. They get in the way. I got to find a new pop-up filter because this thing is just way too wonky. I might have to go and get something new because it's just like I want something that just attaches, not something I have to screw on all the time. Horror movies of 2019. I mean, it was pretty good. It's as good as it gets, to be honest with you. I didn't like Pet Sematary. Ready or Not was brilliant. I enjoyed that. Us was good, of course. Crawl was genius for a small little horror film. I thought Crawl was fantastic. What else have we got here? No, Brian, no, Child's Play, no. I guess The Lighthouse, if you think that's a horror film, I like that movie. Zombieland Double Tap was fine. I didn't see Little Monsters, but a lot of people said that was good stuff. So those are my answers at this point, and certainly The Invisible Man in 2020 is one to put up there as well. Thoroughly enjoyed that movie. All right, let's see. Chris Scorpio said, like I told Ben yesterday, there are times when you become a bigger legend in a loss than a victory, like Ken Shamrock in UFC 1 or Stone Cold in his loss to Bret Hart, or even in fiction, Rocky in his loss to Creed. He played technically brilliantly. I guess Chris is referencing Ben the Boss Bateman, and yeah, he absolutely played brilliantly and technically brilliantly. He picked all the right slices for him, and he even put Dan on his heels with a couple of the slices he picked that Dan could have stumbled upon too. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing was avoiding that Tyler Perry one. That Tyler Perry one could have sunk the game if Dan had spun onto Tyler Perry, and I, for one, am glad that he did not. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Ben made an even more stronger name for himself by playing the match that he played. I'm going to mess with the camera a little bit. Just go down. Yeah, there we go. Just down a little bit. There we go. I think he played technically a brilliant game and gave Dan all he could handle in that match. And I said this to Ben afterwards. I said, Ben, you are now in the category with Bibiani and Ethan and all these other people. Don't be surprised that Ben Bateman becomes the surprise winner of Free For All, because Ben is so smart about these round one questions. He's so on top of it. Yes, did he miss a couple during the match? Yeah, or one? Yes. But overall, Ben is a damn good competitor in the first round. And so if Skaliski and PJ and all these people write the questions, keep it to round one, questions for real, and then maybe occasionally in a two-pointer, I think Ben's going to be fine. He's got good all-around knowledge. He's going to be great. Let's see. And yes, he does achieve more legendary status in the loss because he went toe-to-toe with the greatest of all time to sudden death. And it took, 2 rounds of sudden death before he finally went out. I had predicted 16 rounds of sudden death. I'm glad we didn't go that long. So for the rent on the place. Let's see here. Aiden Cossack donated, said, hope everyone is having a great night. Rocha, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Revolution. Love your opinions on everything, even though I don't always agree. Thank you, Aiden. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at that thing and have a little fun. Someone supposedly DM'd me their password to stuff, and I don't know if I have it. Maybe on Instagram or on Twitter, I have to go into the messages and go find the requests, and maybe the requests are the ones that have. Yeah, but I don't see any requests from somebody who sent me their Yeah, sent me their. Yeah, I don't have anybody who sent me their. They're supposed to send me their password to something, but I don't see anything where they sent me their password for the AEW stuff. So please feel free to send me any password for AEW. I don't see any DM in the Twitter or Instagram. Someone's supposed to send me their password so I can watch all the AEW pay-per-views. All right. Let's see, the next one from Chris Hall. He donated, Rocha, what were you and Ben saying to each other after the match? Well, I think I'm going to save that one for Chill to Action, but let me just say that I was a little upset as the Outlaw about one of the tactics that Ben used in the match on the wheel. And I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and I felt the need to tell him. And, Ben came back hard as nails at me. And I think we were maybe 2 comments away from throwing hands. That's what I thought in that moment, which is why I pulled back, because you don't need that at a live event. And then I stuck out my hand to shake it after he'd finished doing his interview with Brad Gilmore. So in that moment, though, I felt the need to tell him, here's the deal. I'm glad you won a belt. But you got to, you don't get legendary status just winning a belt. You get legendary status winning multiple belts or defending multiple belts or defending one belt for a while. That's where you get legendary status. And I think sometimes people want to leapfrog that step. And I felt I had to need to tell him something like that. And so, but I have all kinds of respect for Ben, and I'm sure he feels the same way to me. And that's the way it goes. The young ones are always trying to jump up and take those slots. And that's what you want. In any sports team, the young ones are always trying to take the slots from the veterans. That's how it goes. Can they prove themselves? They have to prove that they can take that slot and then maintain that slot. That's really how it goes in this game. But nothing but love for Ben. We just had a little bit of difference of opinion about one of his tactics in the game. All right, Sean Monk says, John, got to say right after the morning show, I went and watched Invisible Man. Loved the movie. Got to say, I doubted the hype. I was wrong. Betting 0 points was the way to go. You got our boy Dan the W. You can drag your balls across my face anytime. Thank you, Sean. That's very kind of you, Sean. I appreciate it. Hey, just a real quick thing. There's over 200 of y'all in here. Thank you so much. Please swing over and hit that like button. I'd appreciate if you did that. I'd love to get over 200 likes before I got to wrap this thing up in about an hour. Be a lot of fun to get over 200 likes and what have you to help this thing. And please keep sending in your Streamlabs. I don't see any super chats, but please send in your Streamlabs as much as you can, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have about the event, and I'll get into the event in just a second. Let me finish up all these super chats, and thank you so much. Actually, Dan and I spoke about that Tyler Perry situation. We figured it out as on the stage back and forth. So both of us should not one person, both of us should get credit for that decision for sure. Chris Hall says they need help saluting. Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, the action guys. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Chris Hall also said, when you beat Paul Noyama, would you want Snyder or Irwin? Great meeting you Friday night with Jake. Oh yeah, Chris, that's very kind of you. We'll see if I beat Paul. It's going to be tough. Paul's not a easy guy. He certainly is a former champion for a reason. He's got a lot of things going on in his world. So for me, I'm just happy that I was able to. I'm happy to just play him, and let's see how I do. You got to know how good you are. You got to play the good one, the young ones that come up. You got to see if you still got it. And the thing is, the young ones, ironically, instead of knocking me out of the game, they've re-inspired me to be even more dedicated to the game, to give even more of myself to the game. Because for years, I felt like I was the only one who was playing the game as intensely and passionately as I was. I took a lot of hits from the competitors. People made fun of me all the time. Some of the production guys were making fun of it. All of it. I took all the hits, slings, and arrows of that. But look at everyone else who's come after me. They understand that's the dedication you need to win and to get the accolades and the love from the fans. They want to love you if you're willing to give of yourself to the game. It's there. It's there. And look how everyone else is doing that. So now, once everyone has stepped up, just like Tiger Woods, once everyone stepped up, I had to recalibrate my swing and come back and try and win more majors. So that's how I feel about the situation now. I love that the young people have come in and really inspired me to work even harder. So, all right, let's see. Do what I want, Snyder or Irwin? It doesn't matter to me if I beat Paul Oyama, right? I'm not going to overlook that. If I beat Paul Oyama, Snyder or Irwin, I would love Snyder because I'd love to beat him one-on-one once and for all. But there is a bit of revenge factor for me with Ethan Irwin. I think Ethan beat me straight up for the title. Not going to argue about that at the Spectacular, but I know that I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I was scared. I was nervous. I wasn't focused enough to go and take that belt. I was allowing my demons and my insecurities to get in my head and put me in the wrong frame of mind before I walked out there, you know. And to be honest with you, at the time, Lillian, my girlfriend and I, we were having a little bit of a bumpy patch. And so I wasn't feeling as, you know, as strong inside of myself as I should have been for that match. Not taking anything away. He beat me fair and square. I'm not trying to make any excuses. Ethan won that match. I'm not going to make any excuses. But I really want a shot to play him toe-to-toe, one-on-one, in the zone that I'm in now and see who wins. And if I lose, I want to lose with honor, going out on my shield. But if I win, I get that shot at that title. So it all depends if I can handle business with Paul Oyama first. That's the real focus now. Then I'll focus on Irwin or Snyder after that. All right, Aiden Cossack says, check Instagram. I sent the BR Live log in through the account at Aiden Cossack. If it doesn't pop up, I'll definitely send it again. All right, thanks. I will look, Aiden. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I will take a look for that. All right. Jackass Nation sent in a super chat, said, use this donation to get a large cheese pizza. Wanted to send some love to my exchange brother. Wish I could stay, but Raw is on. See you at the free for all, bro. That's BC. Thank you, BC. Appreciate it, man. BC was so cool during the whole event. Took care of us. You know, he's such a vital part of our production team. He makes sure we get get involved in all these kinds of things. Make sure we have what we need. When we get to the venue, there was 3 separate green rooms. There was a green room downstairs. That's where Alex Damon was with Roxy. And then upstairs with the Finstock Exchange, for lack of a better term, green rooms. On one side was Dan. On the other side was Ben with Emily Rose Jacobson. They had that side. And Dan and Mara and I had the other side. We could hear each other a little bit through the walls. So we tried to put on classical music. So A, we wouldn't hear anything that they were discussing. And B, they wouldn't hear anything that we were discussing. So there was a lot of like hush, hush, quiet, quiet type of stuff going on. So yeah. So thank you. And BC took care of us, got us some Diet Cokes. He brought us up some cheese pizza, which I absolutely hated, but he brought it up for us anyway. Enjoy Raw, BC. Love you, man. All right, one last Streamline before I jump in and talk about the matches. Mary Million, she said, when Christian Harloff asks players if they're ready to play, Ben's reply is about win-win for the exchange, but Dan's reply was bring the belt. That was an awesome mic moment, and I knew right then and there Dan had the fire and was going to win. Did you plan that with Dan? No, we did not. Dan, you know, like I said, when the after match promo, Dan is like that self-pack and Ka that you saw in that commercial of the Super Bowl. Dan is going to do his thing. We're going to talk strategy. We're going to talk all this kind of thing. But Dan, since that whole situation blew up about managers, Dan was just like, I don't give a crap about any of this outside noise. I just want to get in that cage, get the collars off of us, and let's go toe-to-toe and see who the winner is. And I love that about Dan. I love seeing that fire, man. I mean, it's so inspirational for me to see that fire in Dan because I've always felt self-conscious about how I approach this game because I'm so passionate, so driven, so determined to be the best, one of the best, not the best, but one of the best players ever to play this game. And Dan certainly, seeing the way he approaches the game, it inspires me. So when he has those moments on the mic, Dan is his own person. Dan will say what he thinks what he wants to say and what he thinks is right for him in that moment. And it's a joy to listen. It's a joy to experience. It's a joy to have. So I'm such a massive fan of Dan Murrell as a person, but I've become an even bigger fan of Dan Murrell as a competitor, both in my faction, riding side by side with him during a teams match, or like at the live event, being his manager for the live event as he competes. You know, that stuff we didn't. There's a couple things we talked about ahead of time. That wasn't one of them. So Dan saying bring the belt. It reminded me of me when I said to Dan, you know, in our match for the belt, when I said to him, I'm glad you brought the belt. Did you have a good time with the belt? Because now you're going to give it to me. And then Dan came back and said, why, you going to clean it for me? It was brilliant. Such a brilliant comeback. So all kinds of love to Dan for that. All right, so let's move into what happened at the matches. The first match, of course, was Emily Rose Jacobson versus Alex Damon. I was very proud to walk out with Tom with Emily Rose, and that was a bit of a tough match for Emily. I think Emily gave as good as she could. There were a couple things she dropped in that round one that were a bit shocking, and I think she's just going to get better at this stuff as she understands the game. And really, remember, Ben didn't have a strong singles record. Remember that. Kalinowski, too. Still not. Kalinowski's record's not that strong singles-wise. So just, you know, you never know. A person can look like maybe they don't understand or don't, but sometimes people just a little bit of slow, they're blossomers, which means like they have to take a little bit of time to understand the game, analyze the game, figure it out. They have to take some losses, and then they they go on the run. I think Emily Rose Jacobson absolutely can be one of those people. And I think she proved herself to a degree on Saturday night in the live event. But Alex Damon, Alex Damon knows a lot, certainly can study really well. He has both Molly and Roxy quizzing him about stuff. So he had two people really on him to get ready for the event. I think with Emily Rose Jacobson, unfortunately, I think if I hadn't had to manage Dan, because as after we walked her out, I was very proud to walk her out, because it was her debut live event match. I had to come back upstairs and make sure Dan's in the right place. So we were watching the match on the live stream on my iPhone while we were also quizzing Dan about all the different categories. Because by the time that match started, or after that wheel had gone on, we got the categories so that we could study, both Dan and I and Ben and Tom. So we were all in there with Moreau, of course, Ben, Moreau, and I. Dan Moore and I in one room and Ben and Tom in the other. So we were all studying while we were watching the match. And I thought Emily Rose, I think if I had been down there managing her, and this is nothing against Tom, but I think if I had been down there managing her, I would have had a little more conversations about like what you should focus on, what you should need to do. Because I think what Emily Rose didn't know is that when you walk down to any match, you should be prepared for any situation. And you know what? I can't fault her. I have done the same thing. I've walked into matches and not been prepared about what category to give to who. So in that Bibiani match last year in the singles tournament, I blew it when he spun opponent's choice, and I wasn't able to go over there and pick a category right out of the blue. And I consulted with Tom, and Mark Riley would have told me to get scores and soundtracks just in case. Bibiani claims he's great at this now, but it could have been interesting to put him on the back foot and see if he could have answered those questions. And so that's my fault. I didn't come in prepared, but that taught me. Even now, I'm still learning things about the game, that I should come in prepared for every possible scenario. Throw away the organic kind of like, I'll feel it while I'm in the moment. I can play my game organically, but still be prepared for every scenario. And I think Emily Rose Jacobson will learn that from now on. Apparently, in talks with her boyfriend, Adam Hlavik, he texted her and said, hey, why didn't you choose the MCU movies? And when I asked her about it, she said there were just so many to choose from that I was afraid that I was going to get these questions that I didn't know, and I was going to look even worse. So she got nervous, and that's what happens those live events. You've got to see who can handle it in the moment and who can't. And Emily got a little overwhelmed, and that's okay. Down the road, Emily will not be overwhelmed. Emily will know what to do because of these experiences. So for me, I came away very impressed by her, and I fell in love with her as a performer, as a player as well. She wore that Ghostbusters outfit that was badass. She had ordered a Doctor Strange outfit, which was $350. She told us behind the scenes, but unfortunately, when it came in, only the cape came in, not the rest of the costume. So down the road, I think we'll see her dressing up in that Doctor Strange outfit, or even a 1950s Harry Potter witch wizard that she was going to dress up as well. So, but she came out in that Ghostbusters outfit, and I thought it was pretty brilliant with her contraption there and everything like that. And of course, Damon just walked out, with his leather jacket and his belt. What else does he need? He's Alex Damon. But I appreciated that about Emily. And so Emily had been, the Star Trek thing was rough. There were 3 or 4. There was 3 out of 4 of those that I got right off the bat. Another one that I went to multiple choice didn't get. So and I'm a big Star Trek fan. So those questions were good. They were decent. So I think in the future, that's the things we're going to work on with Emily is like, what study sheets do we need to create so that she can feel comfortable walking into any inner geekdom match and doing a good job. So unfortunately, she gets the first loss of the year for the exchange, but none of us can feel anything but proud about what she did during the match, and we all just love her as a person. We love her as part of the faction. And she is hyped up to be part of the Finstock Exchange. And that means so much. When you watch her coming down, walking Ben out, she is like jumping up and down and hyping the crowd up because she's so happy to be a part of us. And we love that. We can, because we get so much shit from the other competitors now, from the other managers, from some of the fans. People are mad that we're winning these matches and what have you. They think we have some kind of advantage over everybody else. I don't know. We come with belts, but we win our matches. If we weren't winning our matches and we were somehow being handed extra matches, then the complaints would seem to have some kind of merit. But if we're winning our matches, then I don't understand what the problem is. We're handling our business like we're supposed to. So for me, it just is so odd that some of this. So to have Emily be such a positive energy in our crew is great. Cody Hall was there as well. He was working the production, but he was there, I think, in spirit with the exchange. And all of us send our thoughts out to Gray Drake. All of us love Gray Drake, and we know when the time comes, Gray's going to be part of this exchange full bore, and that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, there's over 246 of y'all in here. Thank you so much for joining. Got 156 likes. Please get me the likes up to over 200. That'd be so much fun before the end of this thread. Much love to all of y'all. So anyway, the match ends for Emily Rose. I thought she acquitted herself well, and I think she learned from it. Alex told me afterwards he was super nervous because it is his first, Inner Geekdom match. He had farther to fall as a Star Wars champion, but in the end, took care of business, and I got nothing but respect for that from for Alex and Molly, who is one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet. Such a beautiful, bright light in the world, and so got nothing but love for Alex. Cool dude as well. And Roxy, I'm sure, was really happy to have a victory for her rock stars in that way. So, and she managed the hell out of it. She was super stressed. A lot of tension for Roxy. She made sure that Alex had a separate dressing room from Emily Rose Jacobson because she wanted to go over strategy, all these kinds of things. So we kind of moved it all around to make it work for her. In that way. So she was good to go. Alex and Roxy were good to go down there with Molly, figuring everything out. So got to give props to Roxy, man. She managed the hell out of that match. She managed the hell out of Alex Damon, and in the end brought home the W. Can't give her nothing but love. So, all right, let's move on to some stream chats real quick before we jump into the big match with me managing Dan and Tom managing Ben for the singles title. Let me jump into some super chats here. Garth McMurray donated. He said, "You keep threatening to drag your balls across the faces of all these other people, getting in some practice until you meet me in Boston, huh? But seriously, I hope you and Mark Ellis do stand up when the Schmoedown comes to Boston. Have fun on Chill to Action." Thank you, Garth. I appreciate that. Sending you get well wishes as well, Garth. I know you're struggling with something. We talked about it on SEN Live, so hope I'm entertaining you in some way, my man. I mean, it sounds like a terrible situation that you're in right now. Physically, I hope you get past that and everything heals up and you're. But yeah, I'm not dragging my balls across your face in your current state. Maybe later, maybe when you're a little bit better, I will absolutely do that. So, and thanks, brother. Yeah, we'll see what happens in Boston. We'll see who ends up going. Roxy is going to lobby hard to be part of the card for Boston. And I'm sure Snyder as well is going to lobby his face off to be part of it. But it might just come down to who has the belts, who's in contention, and what the titles are. So we'll see. All right, Kyle Petrano says, "I love you, man. Thanks so much for all you do. My nephew was the outlaw for Superhero Day at school." Get out of here. Was he really? Dude, Kyle, that's awesome. Any chance you took pictures? I swear to you, Kyle, if you tweet me any pictures of your nephew in that at Superhero Day, I will absolutely retweet it, absolutely give him some love and some attention and whatever. I would love that. And tell your nephew, thank you so much from the Outlaw, and that I tip my hat at him for that. I tip my hat in respect for what he did being the Outlaw for Superhero Day. Pretty humbling to read that as well. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate you sending that in. All right, Chris Hall donated again. He said, "Is there a what-if match you would want to be in or see?" Yes, of course. A what-if match. I would love to have a what-if match with Clark Wolf. I would love to have a what-if match with Rachel Cushing. I would love to have a what-if classics match where it's me, Rachel Cushing, Dan Murrell, William Bibiani, and Sam Levine, and maybe even Mark Andreyko. A 6-way classics match would be so much fun for us veterans. I know there was a 5-way match that ended up years ago on, that we shot a couple of years ago, just randomly, that ended up on a Patreon thing, and that was a lot of fun. And so down the road, I would love to have some kind of what-if match like that. I don't never taken on McWeeny one-on-one, so that could be fun. I took him on, we did that manageable, but I don't really count manageables as one-on-one confrontation. So, I would love to have a shot at that. And I think if I could get Matt Nost to train up, I'd love a what-if match in the future between Matt Nost and I versus the Patriots one more goddamn time. I'd love to have a rematch and see what happens there. And the player that I am now. You know what I'm saying? All right. Bradley Burnett donated here, said, "If the Outlaw hangs up the competitor hat, I hope you don the manager's hat. Outlaw Nation faction players would be lucky to benefit from your experience. Also, you would have some great manager duels Outlaw Finstock manager duel would be epic. Oh, yeah. That would be fun. I got all kinds of respect for Tom. And, Tom's a really sweet guy behind the scenes. I know he makes those comments or whatever, but Tom is very supportive of all of us. He understands, like, he's not, what you see in front of the camera is not what you see behind the camera. Tom is very, like, caring of the players that are in his faction. He's very communicative with us. He took care of Emily the whole time from beginning to end, making sure she was okay, making sure she felt comfortable. Yeah, did the nerves get to her? Maybe Tom had to figure out. Look, Tom had to figure out how to manage me, so it's not a surprise he might have to figure out how to manage Emily in those moments. So, I think Tom did a good job. Didn't do a great job. I probably could have helped, a little bit. I probably could have helped him better, and I take that on, and that's my bad. I was just so focused on Dan that I didn't have the time to focus on Emily. But if I didn't have to manage Dan, I probably would have been focused more on Emily with Tom to make sure she was comfortable and cool and good to go for that match. Not that she needs us, you know what I'm saying? Emily's a strong person, she's a strong woman. She's handling her business, doing things in her life. But something new, we could have given her some information or some knowledge from our own experiences that she could have employed in those moments to kind of keep the nerves down and figure out what she wanted to do a little more clearly. So in that way, I feel a little guilty that I didn't step up a little harder to be a better co-manager with Tom for Emily. But Bradley, definitely I appreciate that. I would love to manage someday. I find when I was doing it with Dan, and I found when I was watching the Emily Rose Jacobson, that I do have this desire to manage, to run my own faction. And ironically, I probably wouldn't be the one cutting these mad, crazy promos that I do. I'd like my players to do that, and then I'd have something, to add to it. But I wouldn't be like trying to take center stage. It would be my players who would do it. And maybe down the road, next year or in a couple of years, I find myself managing a faction. That would be a lot of fun for me personally. I want to give a shout out quickly to J&J Productions 1809, who subscribed to the Outlaw Nation, and Carlos Sordo, who subscribed during this stream. If you haven't subscribed, I really would appreciate it if you hit that red button, that subscribe button. There'll be more stuff coming down the pike. I recorded an Invisible Man review this afternoon. Probably going to re-record it. I'm very hard on myself with movie reviews. I don't know why. It's the one thing that I shoot or put on camera that I am incredibly nervous about. I think maybe it's because I love movies so much. I want to do a movie review justice. I also worry that other people are watching my movie reviews who are in my sphere and then laughing at me. I get those concerns thinking, I'm not as smart about movies as they are, which I am, if not smarter. It's just that sometimes constructing a movie review is different than actually talking about a movie or analyzing a movie or breaking it down. And so I need more practice doing that. So it's just I get nervous, I get in my head, I start to beat myself up a little bit. And so I know I can do a better in the Invisible Man review than I did today. So I'm going to work on it and maybe do one tomorrow morning, record it. If I feel comfortable with it, I'll edit it and put it out as soon as possible for people to enjoy. All right, well, there you go. Subscribe, please, if you can. And if you want to give me some likes, I would appreciate it. Over 250 you in here. Thank you so much. Please swing that like button over, or swing that cursor over and hit like on it. All right, let's see. Here we go. So, the big match. Dan Murrell versus the boss, Ben Bateman, the champion, Ben, the boss Bateman, for the title. Dan and I, we had a little bit of communication after we'd had that conversation after SCN Live. We went back to my, we each kind of went to our respective corners. I checked in with him every couple of days, made sure he was doing his thing. We checked in as I was leaving Atlanta. Dan was super complimentary. I was super complimentary to Dan. Got into the airport at Atlanta, checked in with him when I was out that night, making sure he was okay. Then the next day, ran into him at breakfast. I was having a little bit of breakfast, and then they were going out to get some food and kind of do some more studying. When Dan studies, he studies with Mara about everything. Mara is so good of a kind of a counselor and a manager of Dan. We kind of I would have to say that first time I'm saying that. I would absolutely have to say that Mara and I co-managed Dan, and it was a lot of fun in that way. And so we had a good time with it. When I ran into them as I was leaving my breakfast, I just ate at the Fairfield Marriott. So I woke up at 9:30 in the morning, went right downstairs, had some breakfast, and then went right back up and fell asleep for 3 hours, and then watched the Liverpool game, which I probably should have slept through. Then showered, got changed, and went over to the venue. So when Dan and I ran into each other in the morning with Mara, they both were talking about what their plan was for the rest of the day, and Dan was going to study some more and all that jazz. So I love that. Dan doesn't have like superstitions about certain things. Dan wants certain things to go down. Dan asked me to make sure that the music that he played, it was his music. The music that he plays hypes him up, gets him in the right zone, and I appreciate that. So all those things I had to handle as a manager. So when they went to go eat and study, I left them alone. There's no need for me to be involved in that. They have their own relationship, just like my lady Outlaw and I. We have our own relationship when I'm getting in the zone to play, and so I left them alone for that. When we get to the venue, Dan and I, met up, Mara as well, and we got into our green room. We just started, studying, do the general stuff, making sure he was okay, make sure he had Diet Coke, all that jazz. Then, once we got the categories for the wheels, we were looking at all the categories that we may not be as strong in. I'm not going to tell you what those are because any number of players could be watching or listening to this later. But Dan looked at the wheel and he told me which categories he didn't feel the strongest in. And then we just quizzed. We just quizzed and quizzed. I looked through the IMDb, looked through the Wikipedia, all these kind of things, like figuring out questions I could come up with to ask him. Certainly one of those was Anne Hathaway. We just went over it. And damn if it didn't come up in the match. So, we get ready, we get psyched up, we get all that jazz going down there in the green room, figuring it all out. And then there's this idea, like there was initially the idea that Tom was going to walk out with both of us, but with me and with Dan, and then with Ben and BC and Emily. So, but we ended up deciding that it was better for just the split. So the split to happen between, so Tom would walk down with Ben and Emily, and BC would walk down with me and Dan and walk out with Ben. So that's how that all went down, which is how you see it played out. So, there was nothing but respect between Dan and Ben behind the scenes, shook hands, had conversations, what have you. We met the fans who came in, the fans who bought the high-end VIP. They were able to sit with us and talk with us for half an hour. It was a lot of fun. And then, we got into the zone. Dan and I got into the zone, just kind of getting in our place about what we needed to do, touching base about it, making sure we're in the right place. And Dan was just hungry, man. Dan was just hungry to get in that ring and see what would happen. So, we did all the things that we needed to do in that way. Then we go down to the ring. And what's funny? There's a symphony going on at the same time in the other theater, at the Alliance Theater there in Atlanta, which was cracking me up. Here we are, Dan Murrell and I, Dan in his flannel, Mara walking with him as well, him holding one of the tag team belts, me holding the other tag team belt with my jacket on and my hat on and all that jazz, walking down together in the middle of all these old people going to the symphony, with their little glasses and their whatever that is that they were wearing, and their ties and the nice suits and the nice dresses and all that jazz. And they were, of course, giving us weird looks and whatever. And it felt like one of those weird moments out of a movie where you're like breaking up the rich people to go and hang out and do your thing as the rebels. Real quick, MSN admin Ben sent it to Super Chat. Your faction, when you do have one, should be called the Outlaws. That would be cool. Yeah, I like that idea. I don't mind that idea at all. Absolutely. That could be a lot of fun. We're walking down, Dan and I walk into the situation, and we're just kind of focused on making sure everything's going well and we're in the right frame of mind. We go down into the main green room. Ben's down there as well. So, we all have our interactions, as I said. Everybody give respect to each other. Everybody saying good luck to each other. Wasn't acrimonious. It wasn't like, any kind of anger. It was playful, some playful ball busting, but also some real respect between the competitors, which was nice to see. We're all in the same faction, but we're all hungry for belts. We're all hungry to be champions. So there's nothing wrong with that. Then Dan and I, get into our guerrilla position, which is essentially right outside the theater, or right outside in the kind of like a walkway area inside the theater, in between the two sides you can walk down. And they start playing dance music, and I start feeling that music, and I'm not even playing, and I'm getting hyped up. I'm getting like the Outlaw hyped up, like moving left to right, rubbing my hands, getting myself in the zone, and getting excited to walk out there. Dan's got to walk out last because he is the guy here. So we made sure when we walked down that it was BC leading us, then me kind of walking and high-fiving, staying. And I stayed like in this zone. Do you know what I'm saying? I high-five people for the Emily match, but for the Dan match, I wanted to radiate focused power. I wanted Dan to have that energy from me, so he understood like we're this is for real now. The Emily Rose Jacobson walkout was fun. this is game time. This is for real. So walking down, kind of get the stern look, walking around Dwayne, who was doing a great job shooting the entrances. And Dan, having his moment in the sun with all the fans, all the fans loving him. We're both walking out with our tag team belts, walk up to the stage, and I start whooping up the crowd, saying he's the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT, got the chants going, things of that nature. Oh, I did that for Emily as well, chanting Emily, Emily. So all of that was great to see the fans reacting to it and going along with it rather than rejecting it. That was a lot of fun. So you saw them doing that, and it was such a joy to see so much love for Dan Murrell. People love Danny, and it was great to see that. And we stand there, and of course, here comes Ben, and here comes Tom, and Ben looking great in that suit with that gray scarf. Tom walking him down with BC and Emily both hyping up the crowd. That was so much fun, But when Ben walked out, in my mind, I was like, that's the enemy for this match. That's the enemy for this match. That's who we're trying to beat. And that's the mindset that I got into, right, to kind of manage Dan. So we get into the situation, he walks down. And then Finstock grabs the mic. Well, what do you know? Finstock grabs the mic, starts talking, starts doing his little mini promo for everything. And, we had agreed no promos. But damn it, there was Tom doing a promo, and I couldn't resist. And the truth was, I wasn't prepared to do a promo. So when you see my promo for it, yeah, I'm hyping up Dan, but I'm not as on point as I usually am with my promos. So it wasn't the best of my promos, but it was good. It just wasn't the one that I consider one of my best. But I was just so focused on Dan. And maybe because I wasn't playing, also, I didn't need to promo it in a certain way. So, but Tom, I was surprised. Tom grabbed the mic, did his thing, then I did my thing. And we had a nice little fun back and forth. And I was busting Tom's balls. So it was great. It was so much fun. And the fans were great. Like when I grabbed the mic, the fans were like, oh, and I'm just like, one thing here we got to clear up. And then I said to Ben, you got to learn your pecking order in the game, son. And that's motivation to me. You tell someone, you got to learn your place. You got to learn where you belong. And Ben is the one to say, I'm going to show you where I belong by how I play in this match. And damn if you didn't do it, man. Ben and Dan both played a monster of a match. After we did those promos, I looked at Dan. I was like, brother, you got this. Stay focused, step by step, round by round. Don't get too high, don't get too low. And he already knew all of that. Anything I was saying to him, he already knew. He already knew in his head. Mara was off in the wings, watching from the wings, and so it was great to have that support system when he needed it, to look at her to kind of, if he needed her to kind of get focused in or calm down a little bit, she was there if he needed it. I was there too to have conversations with her if you need to little hype up, whatever he needed. So, that first round went back and forth. Ben stumbled on one question, didn't get it. Dan ended up getting a perfect round plus answering the ninth question rather, to get himself 9 points. He was up 9-7 going to that second round. And I walked out to Dan. I was like, great round, man, great round. He's like, it's only one round. And I was like, yep, that's right. It's only one round. I know the second round, but it's still good to start that way. When you're going toe to toe with somebody, it's good to start. But both of us know, Dan and I both know, a perfect round doesn't mean shit if you can't get it done in the second and third or fourth or fifth rounds. That's the thing about championship matches. There are so many places to win a match in a championship match, but there are so many rounds to lose in a match as well. You just never know what's going to happen. So after that first round, it really felt like, Dan had this thing and he was in a good place. If the wheel was good to him, then he was going to be fine. And then Ben got in there. He had Ben spin first because that's usually our policy. The Ben spun first. Doesn't mean we won't change it up. Doesn't mean we can't change it up, just kind of throw things off a little bit. But Ben spun first, got Nora Ephron, and then went right through that category. And classic Ben, that whole Julie Kavner thing, he was like, playing it up. And I respect Ben. That's how he plays. When you play Ben, you're playing a showman. And you're playing a guy who's going to drag it out, answer at the last second. A guy, he's going to do the things that he does. And I respect the fact that he's got a certain style of gameplay that you've got to adapt to and roll with and not get irritated by, because that's what he's doing when he's doing those things. He's trying to get under your skin. He's trying to get under your head. For Dan, the game works on multiple. For Ben, the game works on multiple levels, and it was frustrating to be on the other side of him. I'm not gonna lie, and not being able to compete against him. It was frustrating to watch him do things because I was worried for Dan that it was getting in his head, But Dan, true to form, did not let that happen. He spun. He got the category he got, which was Anne Hathaway, which we had studied up in the green room after we'd received the categories, just like Ben had received the categories, and we studied it, and he answered most of the questions right. They missed that South Korea Japan question, and Ben missed it as well. And I thought for sure that I would have to eat crow for that one because we had studied all of Anne Hathaway, and then we got to Colossal, and I thought with Colossal that he didn't know who had, he didn't know what. I didn't think they were going to ask what country Colossal, like what country the kaiju was in. I had no idea they were going to ask that question, and damn if it didn't come down and they asked it, and I was like, damn it. But at least Ben didn't steal the point. We were encouraged by that. But Dan and I had spoken about Gary Marshall with Anne Hathaway, so I think it was really great that he didn't know that Gary Marshall directed Princess Diaries. It might have come to him in that moment. I know we were up there in the green room. He didn't know. I had to remind him, and so he got that. And I think when he got the Gary Marshall question, that really helped him in that moment. So much love to that situation coming down. So coming out of that, Dan is a little bit. I think Dan he's tied or he's down a little bit. Then we go into that third round, the betting round. Oh, right. Ben is down by 1 point to Dan. It's 15-14. I think Ben spins, or is it what was it? Yeah. Dan spun, then got Tyler Perry, which was what we were afraid of. So if you're going to get Tyler Perry in the betting round, not in the second round, where that could really affect you if you haven't studied enough of Tyler Perry. It could affect you overall and what you end up knowing or not knowing about his movies. So the fact that he was in there and spun that only on the betting. So then Dan and I had this conversation. He comes out and I'm like, man, because before the match we had said, well, whatever it is, we're going to bet 3 points, kind of put Ben on his heels. But Tyler Perry made us reevaluate that strategy. So Dan and I were talking, and Dan says to me, he goes, I think 1 or 0. And I was thinking to myself, man, 1 point, just to see if you might know it. But then I looked at the scoreboard and I was like, well, if Ben knows it, and it felt like Ben had put Tyler Perry on the wheel, and I think he did at the time. We weren't 100% sure, but we thought Ben had put Tyler Perry on the wheel. We thought, well, if he gets this right, he's probably betting all 3 points because he's down 2. If he gets this right, then you're only down 2 points going into the betting round or going into the speed round. So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is not bad. If you're down by 2 points going to the speed round, you can make up those 2 points. People can mess up in the speed round, answer too quickly, what happened. So what happened was Ben got it right. Dan did not. And so Dan was down 17-15 going into the fourth round. He didn't bet any points. We had said that. I said, what is he goes, 1 or 0. And I was thinking 1. And but then I looked at the scoreboard, like I said, and I said, 3 points, you only be down by 2. And he goes, what does your gut tell you? He goes, 0. I think it was 0. I go, yes, go 0. That sounds right to me. You're only down 2. You can make that up in the speed round or in the fifth round if you need to. So, he's down by 2 points going into the fourth round. And here we go. Man, this was a hell of a display from Ben Bateman. Ben Bateman built a 5-point lead coming out of that speed round. He was so fat. Dan didn't get any of them. None of them. And that was really surprising. So Ben had kind of put himself in this position now. I think it was 20-15. And Ben, he could have been up by 6. And I think this is crucial to think about. If Ben gets that question right in the first round, maybe he gets that second question right, the ninth question for that extra point, and Dan's in a bad way. If Ben steals that South Korea question for Colossal, he's up by a point. If Ben doesn't answer too quickly on Black Panther with that buzzer and doesn't get it right, because he said Infinity War. He could have been up by a point. So any number of things, or if Dan and I had decided for Dan to bet a point on Tyler Perry, Dan would have been down by a point. So anything that would have given Ben a 6-point lead going into the fifth round would have been the death of Dan Murrell in this match. For whatever reason, the trivia gods or what have you certain things happen to keep Dan within 5 points. So we go into that 5th round, and Dan comes up to me and he says this. He's like, you know what? I fought a good match, and he's probably going to get the 5-pointer and beat me, but I got no shame. And I let the outlaw out of the cage. I said to him, don't you fucking say that to me. You focus up. You answer these questions. You get them all right. You make him beat you. Don't you worry about this. You make him beat you. Answer all 3 of these questions so that you put the pressure on Ben. Put the pressure on Ben and see if he cracks. Put the pressure on Ben and see if he gets that 5-pointer. At least get it to a 5-pointer, because you never know what can happen in a 5-pointer. He's like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, you're right. And so it was just that kind of situation. I sensed from Dan that he was a little bit fatalistic about it after the 4th round going into the 5th. So I felt I needed to give him that inspiration, that push, and Dan does that for me all the time now in our teams matches. When I'm feeling a little like concerned or low, Dan goes, no, it's totally fine. It's cool. When I had my bronchitis and stuff, when Dan and I rolled that fantasy sci-fi, I was really worried. And he said, no, we got this. So we have a really good job. We have a really nice chemistry now as a team that we can build each other up and focus each other up and get each other in the right frame of mind. And sometimes that clears the cobwebs out of your brain and gets you to focus and do what you need to do. So Dan answered the second, got that 2-pointer, got that 3-pointer. And then when he got that 5-pointer with Nick and Nora's Infinite playlist, I was like, this is incredible. Like, he is put, and then of course Ben got his 2-pointer. Ben got his. Wait, I got more super. Let me hold on. Sorry, let me jump into these super chats just a second. And then Ben got his situation, and then we go to the crucial 5-pointer. And before we go to the crucial 5-pointer, let me look at some super chats and some Streamlabs here. Hey John, please convince Christian. This is from Haskell 420. What's up, Haskell? Love you, man. Hey John, please convince Christian to do my idea for that FSU alumni what if Patreon match. You versus Harlow versus Kalinowski versus Dan Murrell versus McWeeny. Oh, is McWeeny Florida State? I didn't know that. I'm down with that. That'd be a lot of fun. For Christian, it always depends on if he thinks it'll get views. And I always tell him, you can be worried about views, but I think it'll be everybody, people will watch if you put the big ones, the great ones, the stars in a Patreon match or exhibition match. People will watch. You just got to put the right people in these matches. And I think that's a good alumni match to have, and maybe, maybe Christian's worried about it because Christian hasn't played in a bit and he's kind of out of training. So maybe he's concerned about that. All right. J-Dog sending a super chat. He said, I can get you a 2008 MLB All-Star Game official baseball that was from Old Yankee Stadium that year. If you want, can drop it off in Boston in May. Shit, that'd be great, Jay. Absolutely. I think I'm going to open a P.O. box as well, because fans have been saying they want to send stuff in. So please, I will absolutely create that or open that, and you all can send stuff in. Apparently, I got to create an Amazon wish list as well. People like to buy you things on your Amazon.com wish list. So we will see going down the road if I create something. I feel self-conscious about that. Like, I feel like I'm asking for stuff, and it's never where the vibe that I want to come from or the place that I want to come from. So, all right, let's move into a super chat here. So yes, please send me that. That'd be great. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, sorry. Chris Hall donated. He said, hey, when are you and Smets playing each other in Star Wars? In my mind, I'm planning on it in June or July, but it all depends on Christian. Christian's not sure about it. If Christian approves it, then I'll play him. And if he destroys me, so be it. But it'd still be fun to go toe-to-toe and work a little program with Smets, who I really respect and admire to pieces. Kaiser, too. It'd be great to go promo to promo with those guys. I mean, Finstock versus Kaiser, me versus Smets, that's promos galore. The Finstock Exchange versus the Dungeon, that is promos galore. So what other avenue will I have to play Smets? So maybe down the road, hopefully in June or July, or later in the year, we'll lock it up. But my approach is the entire month of April is studying Star Wars, the entire month of April. Because right now I'm prepping for Oyama, and if I'm lucky enough to get the victory, then I got to prep for the next guy, Urban or Snyder. So for me, that's my focus in March. But in April, it's all Star Wars, watching every single one of those movies, writing every little thing down that I can, and then playing all the Star Wars matches and seeing how I do. That's going to be essentially my initial training regimen. And then, of course, maybe I'll do something Kevin does, like, record myself talking to myself and listen to myself. Seems a bit weird. Or put no cards down for myself. We'll see. Let's see. Brandon Buck wants to know, hey, John, when are you doing your sports show? My plan is to shoot it tomorrow. Depends on the timing. I'm going to try to shoot tomorrow. Hopefully I can edit it and have it up tomorrow. We'll see. all depends on what I get it done, either tomorrow or Wednesday, certainly the start of the sports show. And that'll be a lot of fun to be talking about everything that's going on in the world of sports. We get back into the rhythm of things. It'll be fun. So yeah, definitely look for that coming very, very soon. It's going to be called Game Time. Brian Ward did a fantastic logo for it. So, and I showed people that already, I think, on one of my live streams. So certainly that's going to be coming down the pike. Let's see, what else would have been? Oh yeah, Andrew Hale, here we go. When do you guys know what slices your opponent puts in the match? On the day of? Good match analysis, Rocha, hashtag Founding Fathers for life. Oh, we don't know. We never know what slices our opponent puts on the match. We never know, unless like you're willing to tell your opponent what slices you've put on the wheel. We never know, but we like to guess. Like when we look at the wheel, we kind of, through analysis and troubleshooting, having studied each other's matches, we kind of assume certain things that are on the wheel adhere to certain people. I think we ended up figuring out that Tyler Perry was Ben's choice to put on the wheel. So we had that a little bit of knowledge about that eventually. But we usually get the wheel like either right after it gets spun in the match before, or in a big live event. I think you get it right before the match starts, a little bit before the match starts, so you can have a little bit of time to study in the green room. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It gives you prep, you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes you focus and do what you need to do. So, but it's not enough time to study 20 categories or 12 or 14 categories. It's only enough to study maybe 2 categories at most, and not really study them thoroughly, just like brush up on them before you have to walk out. So that's kind of how it works. So it keeps everything competitive, and it keeps everyone thinking on their toes, and it gives a little bit of like knowledge ahead of time, so you can somewhat mini prep, but certainly can't full prep. If you got the categories a day before, holy mackerel, you could be matches will probably go for hours, if you had that kind of situation. So a little bit of mini prep, I think, is okay. To kind of get you in the right frame of mind. Chris All donated again, says, how about them Redskins? Who dat go Saints? Yeah, we'll see what happens with the Redskins. Got Ron Rivera coming in as our coach. We'll see what he does. I like who he hired in the staff. I like who he has put on to the team. I'm a big fan of that kind of situation. So I've come around to Ron Rivera a lot, so I'm a big fan of his. Please, guys, if you haven't sent in we got the Streamlabs, we got the Super Chat up. Please send in Streamlabs. If you look there underneath, and then the beautiful overlay that Jake Iacovetta had constructed for me, you can see the Streamlabs address there. You can see my Patreon address there if you want to start donating, be a part of the Patreon. And of course, you can follow me there on all my social media, and of course, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you've been thinking about it. Already picked up 3 or 4 subscribers already who hadn't been subscribers before, just from what I'm doing here on the live chat. So I thoroughly appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Let's So let's get back into the match here before I got to wrap it up here in the next 15 minutes. So we get to that 5-pointer. It's a crucial 5-pointer. Dan gets it, and the Nick and Nora's Infinite playlist is fantastic. Then Ben gets the 5-pointer, and I was thinking to myself, he's only got 1 repeat left. What is a 5? And it's a heavyweights question. And I have never seen that movie. I don't like that movie. That movie cost me against Dan Murrell. Ironically enough, it cost me against Dan Murrell when I missed that 2-pointer. Or did I still win and beat Dan Murrell? I think that 2-pointer might have been, I'm sorry. The 2-pointer was in the first match with Dan where I won the belt. I missed that 2-pointer because I didn't know that Ben Stiller was in the movie. I missed the 3-pointer, but I did get the 5-pointer with Jennifer Lopez in that movie enough. Never thought of it before. A Latina helped me win my first Schmoedown belt because it was her movie that I had to answer correctly in order to get to beat Dan Murrell. How Latinos helping Latinos? How about that? In that moment, I was thinking to myself, is he delaying? Is he dragging this thing out? It was the question of what's the guy's name and blah, blah, blah. And he pulled back. I saw Ben pull back, and he wasn't sure. I didn't know if this was Ben doing his act. Ben has that act where he acts like he doesn't know. He waits the last possible second. He walks up to the mic and says the answer, and that's that. So I didn't know what he was going to do. And I was like wondering, and I was thinking, and then he's like looking back at Tom, trying to, kind of giving him Tom's giving him some encouragement. Then he asks for the repeat, takes even more time, sits back, then walks up to the mic and says, Chaz. And 4 people yelled out. I heard them in the front row. They were Lars. They were just like, they involuntarily reflexively said Lars, and so that was so people knew the answer. People knew the answer, so it was enough of a 5-pointer. It was a gettable 5-pointer if you had seen the movie or knew the movie, right? Because clearly a number of people in the audience knew it enough to answer the question correctly, and it was Lars, it wasn't Chaz, and we go to sudden death. The reaction from Dan, the exhale from Dan, as he put his hands on his hips, and he was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That was a pretty cool reaction. And I walked up to Dan and I go, I told you, you never know what can happen. You're born again. You are back to life. You escaped all the perils that you could. And here you are still standing. And now make it worth it. Go and get this damn thing, finish him out, and let's go get this party started. And so, they went to sudden death, and it was incredible. The audience was so hyped up and going nuts over it. And they both got the first one right, and then the second one rolled around. I thought it was a pretty gettable one. I knew it immediately with Emilio Estevez, who was a co-star of Men at Work. Ben took his time. I think he asked for the repeat. When he asked for the repeat, this is one of those rare moments where I thought he doesn't know. This is not a delay tactic, because if you're playing sudden death and you only have one repeat, the last thing you want to do is use that repeat in the second question, because it kind of could mess you up down the road. Then again, if you don't know, that's when you use it, because you need a little extra time to think. Because if you don't get it right, you're out anyway. So you're done anyway. And unfortunately for Ben, he didn't get the right answer, says Steve Gutenberg. Dan said Emilio Estevez. And as soon as he said Emilio Estevez, I lost my shit. I jumped all over Dan. I was so proud of him. So happy for him winning the belt. And we had a big hug. He just exhaled, and everything just kind of came out of him, because it was a hell of a match. And of course, he gave a great big handshake and hug to Ben, and all credit to Ben. Walked over, Ben did, and handed him the belt. I think that's great of champions to be able to do that. Kalinowski did that for me when we won the tag team belt. He walked over and handed me the belt. I think there's a sense of respect and honor amongst competitors when you do that. You know what I'm saying? When Riley beat me for the belt, I think I handed him the belt. I think I did before I did my heel move, but maybe I didn't. I know that I clapped for him, but I'm not sure I handed him the belt. So that being said, I thought it was really some classy sportsmanship for both of those guys. Then we got out there, and we got a little bit of a scrape verbally between Ben and I. I shook Finstock's hand, and everything, and Dan did that as well with Ben and with Tom. But I went up to Ben and I was like, I don't appreciate what you did on the wheel. I don't appreciate what you put on the wheel. I can't believe you did that. Champions don't do that. He didn't appreciate what I said, and we got into a little bit of war of words. And I really do think we were one or two comments away from pushing each other, and then God knows what would have happened. So, but Tom came in, kind of separated us, and then Ben gave a really good post-match interview, and I shook his hand, kind of, let bygones be bygones. It's the heat of passion, it's the heat of battle. When you're training a guy, it's like boxing, right? You yell at the other trainer, but afterwards you shake hands because it's the heat of the competition. And then after that, Dan gave a great post-match interview. And like someone said earlier, I want to give some respect to the person who said it. What's it? Yeah, I was wrong. Okay, lost the victory. Chris Scorpio said this, right? He said, Dan said, I would rather be in a faction with a few communication issues than a faction that doesn't win. Exactly. And that's what I mean. Dan is becoming like the alpha dog of this faction. I'm okay with it. Look, I'm okay with it. Dan Murrell will always have my respect. If he has to move into the lead dog position, so be it. So be it. I have no problem with that. I always trust Dan to do anything. So if Dan wants to lead us a little bit, let Dan lead us a little bit. I'm cool with that. I couldn't ask for a better person aside from myself to lead the Finstock Exchange overall. So for him saying that, I thought it put a lot of the issues to rest. He said, yeah, we're going to have trouble. We're going to slam into each other. We're going to do whatever. But he'd rather be in a faction that wants to win and has communication issues, or that wins rather, and has communication issues, than a faction that doesn't win. And that was a strong statement. And that, from the greatest of all time, the GOAT, was a shot across the bow to every other faction in this league. And I'll tell you, and they'll all deny it. They'll all deny it, and let them deny it on their streams. Let them deny it on their shows. I could give two shits. When the greatest of all time, who doesn't usually take shots, takes a shot, people listen. People wake up. And I thought that was awesome of Dan Murrell to do that. I had nothing but respect for him to do that. And I loved it when he said it. And honestly, I almost felt like I couldn't follow that up because it was such a brilliant thing to say. I don't want to miss these super chats. I'm going to answer them in just a second. I thought it was a brilliant thing to say. So I was excited that he said it. And it like put us in the right frame of mind, all of us. Because yeah, people are going to make all their jokes about us. But ironically, I think all the noise, when the dust settled, we were even stronger afterwards. All of us, united, and we all held our hands up, we all did the fives, we all held the belts up. Of course, I had my promo as well. I said what I said. Tom went prison life with his tattoos and everything. But Christian told me, guys, make sure you talk about this match, make sure you talk about this. And so I had to make sure I hit some couple of points there to make sure, we were talking about other stuff that was coming down the pike. Once an event gets built up and the hype happens and then the event happens, the next thing you do is start focusing on the next, start building up to the next event. That's how it works. And so me talking about facing Oyama, talking about facing possibly Irwin or Snyder, depending on how the cards fall. I had to bring all that up as I was, kind of instructed to do so. So I did. But the other stuff I talked about was all mine. The hungry wolves fighting over a piece of meat. I love that. That's how we are. We are a pack of wild dogs or a pack of wolves in there. If you think winning these belts was enough, we're going to sit back and have like champagne and fucking cigars, you don't know us at all. You don't know the Finstock Exchange at all. We are rabid to win the belts. We are rabid to keep the belts. That's how we're built. We want to fight all the way to the end. And if we lose the belts, we want to fight our way back to a position to regain those belts. So that's what I love about being a part of this crew is there's a certain level of expectation, and we're all stepping up to the plate in our own ways to meet those expectations. And Dan Murrell certainly did it that night. Afterwards, it was great. Just out there, everyone, Ben took a little bit of time because he had to kind of process what happened. All respect to Ben. Then came in and we all talked, and it was great. Finstock Exchange back together. And then we all went out to get some food and have some drinks and kind of just talk about stuff. And already Ben was helping me strategize for Oyama. And so we're all together. We all want to win. We take the losses, but the overall faction is what matters. So people saying, oh, the Finstock's going to exchange, going to crumble, blah, blah, blah. We're all going to have our fights. We're all going to have our differences of opinion. But like family, we come back together under one roof. And if you fuck with one of us, you fuck with all of us. And that's kind of how we approach the whole situation now. And I love that. It's good to be in a crew and a family this strong and be a part of this game like this. I really appreciate it. All right, there's over 280 of you in here. Please swing that. I got about 8 minutes left in the stream before I lock it down for a little bit before I jump on and chill to action. Please swing over there, hit that like button. Get me over 250 before I got to wrap this thing up. I'd really appreciate it. Wiley Todd sent in a super chat. He said, John, what is this week's Cinephiles episode? I want to get a head start. Well, it is the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, my man. We did the Raiders of the Lost Ark for the last 2 weeks. Please go and listen to that. If you haven't subscribed to the Cinephiles, you can do so in the descriptions here. All the links for Cinephiles, all the links for the Geek Buddies, all the links for Top 10 are right here in the description for this particular episode. Go and sign up for that. But yeah, we're going to do Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. We just did Raiders of the Lost Ark over 2 weeks. Some controversy and my thoughts on Marion Ravenwood. A little bit of controversy for some people, so be it. All right, Joseph Ashley sent in $1. Thank you so much, Joseph. I appreciate that. With no comment. So, all right, Joseph, I'll take it. Eric Stevenson, it was definitely an edge of your seat match, even watching from home. Good job coaching Dan through the highs and lows, John. Yeah, again, I just was there as a sounding board for Dan. Dan was on top of it, in control of everything, and nothing but love for Dan and how he handled himself. I just was a person who talks to him and kind of is a sounding board. So I appreciate that. Joseph Ashley, another $1. All right. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Any more super chats? It looks like the super chat won't accept his question because it has too many characters. All right. Well, send in, you just send in $2, Joseph. So you certainly could have split the question into two separate pieces. All right, let's move on to some more Streamlabs before I have to wrap it up. Thank you to Joseph Ashley, who donated, like I said, and ITI Scott just subscribed. Thank you, ITI Scott. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the Outlaw Nation channel. I'm trying to get to 20,000 subscribers as quickly as I can. So trying to do all this content and get you all on board. Thank you so much. Chris Hall donated again. He said, do you and Dan want the family or corruption Dagnino manager of the year? Well, we're into March. Dagnino has managed a few victories, so I can't say no. But I don't think it matters to us, family or corruption. Yeah, I mean, if we play corruption again, it'd be fun to kind of even the series up so they don't have that 2-1 bragging right over us. But by the same token, it would be fun to test our wares against a new team like the family with Drew McWeeny and Andrew Guy, and it'd be like Dan facing Guy again. It'd be me facing McWeeny after I lost that Manager Bowl. So I think the challenge there would be very interesting for Dan and I in that way. And but the corruption would be fun too. Obviously, a lot of fun. I'm sure Shannon Barney wants to get her boys in a position to get some belts and have her kind of lord over the league or swagger around this league instead of complaining all the time about how she's not getting a fair shake or she doesn't give a shit about the nerds or those kiss things that she puts up as a heel manager. And she's great at it, by the way. She's damn good at it. So, but I'm sure she'd like a titles to go along with that swagger. So. All right, Chris Scorpio donated well, said, in my opinion, you are the Hogan of the Schmoedown. A face and heel, Hogan is the most important and impactful of all time. You made the Schmoedown a real competition. You made people and competitors care. Without you, no live events, pay-per-views, etc. Oh, Chris, that's very kind of you. I appreciate that. And I was one of the pieces. I'm not the piece, but I'm one of the pieces that made this all work. You can't deny Christian Harloff's vision and knowledge and intelligence about guiding this thing to where it is now. Mark Ellis, of course, being a part of it as well. Those guys are the engine of this train, and everyone else involved in it, from Mark Riley, who really was the first champion, built in, get people excited about it. JT and the Patriots were fantastic in getting people into the league. I did what I did on my side of things. So there's a number of people that are involved here and made it happen. I'm very secure in my place in the firmament of things now, and I appreciate it that it's kind of, you live long enough in a certain situation, all of a sudden you come out the other side and you've got way more fans than when you went in. So to me, that means the world, and so many of you are here on the Outlaw Nation coming with me on the numerous projects that I'm working on, numerous things I do. So it's mad love and appreciation, nothing but that from me. So thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. It's very kind of you. I feel like the Hogan without the awkward, racist words, without the stupid things that he got into. I like to be compared to Hogan. That's who I feel more comfortable being compared to, more than The Rock, more than Triple H or Stone Cold. Even though I do feel a little bit like Stone Cold, I think I am much more the Hogan or The Rock of the Schmoedown than I am anything else. And I think actually you could make an argument that Ben is The Rock, I'm the Hogan, and Dan is the Stone Cold. You can certainly make that comparison and conversation down the road. Haskell 420, John, this is what Joseph Ashley has been wanting to ask, but for some reason he's not, so I will. Roxy says Dan got thrown easy questions in round 3. Do you think they gave it to him, or it's blind support for Ben and Dan just got fandom easy? I don't understand. What easy questions did he get in round 3? Round 3 was the betting round. That was the Tyler Perry round. So there's no easy questions here. In round 5, is Roxy saying Dan got... Look, that's all perspective. That's all perspective, because Roxy thinks they're easy. The questions are subjective. So just because one person thinks they're easy and one person doesn't, you know what I'm saying? You never know. If Dan did know those questions, are they easy questions still? I don't know. Dan answered what he needed to answer. And last I checked, the 2 and 3 are supposed to be relatively gettable. It's the 5 that is the big concern. And you could argue, there was a little bit too much information in the 5. Maybe. But also, look, as much as you might argue about, the questions Ben got, that 5-pointer, clearly people in the audience knew it. So it was a gettable question. So although I understand the concerns, and of course Roxy is absolutely has a right to her point of view on it. I'm not going to argue and try to tell Roxy one thing or another, and I certainly won't accept it. Someone tries to tell me one thing or the other. I have my opinions on it. If people in the audience know it, more than one person in the audience knows it, multiple people in the audience knows, it's a gettable question. It's a gettable 5. The frustration lies in when it doesn't feel like a fight. Like when Bibiani got that skiing question for Better Off Dead in our match, I was super pissed because that was an easy 5-pointer in my opinion. But then I talked to 4 other people who were competitors in the Schmoedown, and they didn't know it because they'd never seen the movie. So it's just like, wow, that shocked me. And someone lived in the 80s and didn't know it. So it's all relative. It's all about experience. Now, maybe you could argue the phrasing of the question or the wording of the question. That's a separate issue. But arguing whether it's an easy or hard question, that is a subjective situation. It's like any movie. Is it a good or bad movie? It's all subjective. So in the end, I think the questions went the way they went. Dan, all you can do is answer the questions that are in front of you. And when you pick the numbers, it's a crapshoot. Just as easily As Ben got those questions, Dan going to call. Remember, Ben picked the numbers first. So he had his pick of all the numbers. If Ben had picked Dan's numbers and gotten those questions, and Dan had picked Ben's numbers and gotten those questions, would Ben have gotten easy? Would Roxy be complaining that Ben got easy questions against Dan? Right? Those are things that come back to you. Like, it's all relative. It's all a crapshoot. Whatever numbers you pick, that's what makes the game the game. You never know what can happen. You never know what you're going to get. Look, I was on course to beat Bibiani in that game, and I got that Quentin Tarantino, and I thought I was going to get, I thought I could figure out a 5-pointer for Quentin Tarantino, but it ended up being that red apple thing, and stupid me, I didn't remember it until much later on in the day. I know they gave me the answer, but I didn't put it together troubleshooting wise until much later on in the day how I could have gotten there. So those are things that happen sometimes. You can complain, but in the end, in the long run, it's all subjective about what you think is easy and what you don't, and what isn't easy. So I don't. And Roxy is a heel for her faction, the Rockstars. So I'm not gonna get into a back and forth with that. I respect Roxy to pieces. I love Roxy to pieces, and she's been very cool with promoting my YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Get her above 20,000. She wants to watch The Matrix. Get her above 20,000 if you haven't subscribed to her, so she can watch The Matrix as a celebration, because she's never seen the film. So please, if you haven't subscribed to Roxy, go subscribe to Roxy. She is the best. So all right, I got almost 250, only 235 likes. So sadly I didn't get to the 250, but I appreciate everyone who joined me here in the stream. I'll wrap it up now. I did an hour and a half of this. Charles Hall wants to know who is on your Mount Rushmore. I already said it. It's Dan, me, Rachel, and I think the fourth is up in the air. I honestly think the fourth is up in the air. I haven't settled on anybody. I can make cases for Sam. I can make cases for Kalinowski. I can also make cases against those guys. I could have made a case for Ben if he had beaten Dan. I think there would have been definitely an argument you could have made. So I don't know who the fourth person is just yet, but I think it's interchangeable right now. Someone needs to really step up and do something pretty incredible to maybe lock that thing down. But right now, the three, I think, definitely are Dan, Rachel, and myself. So absolutely, that's the 3 out of the 4 on the Rushmore for me. All right, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for your questions in the Streamlabs, your questions in the Super Chats. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for hearing what I got to say about stuff, about the live event there in Atlanta. It was so much fun. Thanks to all of you who came out, had a good time. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. I'm going to go rest my voice for a little bit before I have to go on to Chill to Action. Go and find the Chill to Action on YouTube, or the Call to Action rather, and join me. 8:15 to 8:30 is the pregame, and then we're going to get into all kinds of stuff. And I told them they can ask whatever they want, and I'm going to answer all the questions. We'll see how that goes. We had some beef in the past, Chill to Action and I, Call to Action so it could get heated. It could get heated remembering the stuff from the past. We'll see how this all goes down. But I'm looking forward to coming on there and having a good time with them. So if you want to go and join me there, please do so at about 8:30 Pacific Standard Time tonight. I'm going to be jumping on there. And then I'm going to bed and relaxing. All right. Love all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you real soon. Don't forget, tomorrow mornings with the Outlaw. I'll be back for another show from 8:30 to 9:30, talking about all kinds of things, that a couple of subjects going on in the world of entertainment, and answering your questions on the Streamlabs and Super Chats. All right, much love to you all. Have a great rest of your night, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow me on social media at The Rocha Says. And if you want to donate to my Patreon, www.patreon.com/John Rocha, and a lot of stuff coming down the pike on the Patreon as well. So, all right, much love to all of you. We'll talk to you next time. And congrats to Dan Murrell. He is the singles champion of the world, the Schmoedown singles, movie trivia Schmoedown singles champion of the world. Proud of my brother. I'm going to do my best to maybe hopefully face him in the future for that belt. Would mean a lot to me. I'm sure it would mean a lot to Dan for us to go toe-to-toe one more time in that ring. So it'd be a lot of fun. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Much love to you. Have a great rest of your evening, and I hope I see you on the Chill to Action stream. Bye for now.